It is so easy to get canceled as a Muslim.
We're not prophets. We're not angels. Right. We're a regular human being that makes those mistakes. You know, I feel more American than I feel Indian or Pakistani. Muslim halal food is a great industry because as Muslims, we can't go to concerts and bars and nightlife.
What was the challenges like when it came to building up Holy Cow?
So you hurt somebody for your own success. It's a big thing my father was against. He wasn't happy I got into this space first. He says, spend $300,000 on your education for you to become a butcher. So entrepreneurs have to sacrifice a lot, and many times it doesn't show, right? That was worst case scenario, it's 6 months. And my partners were like, what if Holy Cow don't work? That gap between what we wanted and how to get it was difficult. You'd be sold out many times.
Why Holy Cow is successful?
Most people are very critical and they'll just tell you don't do it.
Was there a moment where you thought it was all going to come down? How are you guys feeling? You want to do a quick mic check?
Yeah.
Golden rule is a fist to fist and a half away. I see you guys are more stoic, so maybe a fist.
Yeah, I'm still tensed.
Yeah? I can tell.
I don't know. You guys are doing a good job of making me relax, but...
Yeah, are you normally tense or is this something...
I'm not a good public speaker, right?
Yeah.
I'm not on... You're not recording, right? Recording hasn't started yet? All right. So
you should have told them no.
No, it's not live.
It's not live, yeah.
No,
yeah.
The reason why I do it is because since you guys are already...
No, what I was about to say, I just won't say that. That's fine. No, it's okay. So, no, in general, I'm not public speaker. See, I'm the operations guy. He's the sales guy. He's sitting here quiet. I don't know why. He's the talker, right? Anytime we go anywhere,
I'll sell you something, no problem. Sell you buy some chicken, no problem.
Sell me this date.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm not. I've never been a good. Like I was telling earlier about the Jamaat tabligh work.
Yeah.
My biggest fear was when they choose you for. Were you guys ever involved or familiar?
Never involved, but familiar with it. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So when they choose you for bayan, right? That's the worst. I'll be scared from the salat before. I'll be, reviewing it in my head. I suck at public speaking. I suck at any of that.
So usually people who sandbag themselves this hard are amazing, like the best in the sport. Like I remember Kobe and something, but I think before he like tried out, it's like, man, I just hope I make a basket. He ended up making like 50-point game. Like, yeah, this is what's gonna happen. Watch.
Exactly. But if he starts talking, he'll just talk.
Yeah, mashallah, that's what you need.
So
The other thing is we're not going to blindside you.
No.
Everything that's going to be discussed is going to be either a reflection of based off of what you said or something that's already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the other half of the fear, and I think we spoke to you guys over the on the phone over that. Because of the space we're in, we have enemies.
Yeah.
No matter what, you're gonna have enemies in anywhere. Your competition, people who don't like seeing you succeeding, people who, and then we're in a space that has a religious portion to it.
Yeah.
Right. The conflict between machine slaughtered, hand slaughtered.
Yeah.
That we try to stay out of, but naturally, as our business grows, the hand slaughtered business grows, and that takes away money from machine slaughtered businesses.
Yeah.
And they're a powerful force, right? And so they're always out to get us, even though we try to stay out of this space.
Right.
So that's why we've been shy from trying to put ourselves out there. We let other people put themselves out there who surround us, that we get some affiliation with, but we don't get out ourselves because
to protect yourself.
Yeah, we're worried that someone's just going to take some small portion, and right, and there's many examples of that. And like one example is, and this has nothing to do with the machine slaughter, hand slaughter, but if you guys remember Burger Imp,
Yes.
right, the national chain, right, and there were Burger Imp started on the West Coast, came to the East Coast, and when they came to the East Coast, they needed infrastructure in place. They needed halal infrastructure in place to supply their locations with halal food. They reached out to us. We presented them, and we started working on all of that infrastructure for them. And as soon as the Muslim community found out about it, they started shaming us, saying, "You guys are supporting a Jewish company," right? But the reality was, most of the franchisees were Muslim.
Right.
Yes, there was a Jewish guy sitting at the head, but the people who got affected, right? The Muslims bought into this program because it was a service, a resource being provided for the Muslim community.
Right.
Right. There was a brand. Okay, there happened to be a Jewish guy who was running it, but he opened it up for Muslims for two reasons.
Right.
What he saw in the community was there are a lot of Muslims who are stuck in a gap, who have money, who want to operate a business, right? Who don't want to work the 9 to 5, who want to operate a business, and they're hardworking.
Right.
And they have enough capital to open a location. We should tap into them. The problem why we can't tap into them is because they are a bit more conscious, and they want to provide halal food. They don't want to sell non-halal food.
Right.
There are many Muslims that will open up McDonald's and other businesses.
Right.
But there was a whole class of Muslims who were well off, hardworking, and wanted to provide halal food. So they tapped into that. He was very smart. He said, "Hey, I'll give you guys halal food."
Yeah.
It wasn't made for the consumer. It wasn't, "Hey, we're going to give halal food so we'll get a bigger customer base." That was one play, but that's not what Burger M's play was, because we had a conversation with them. Their conversation was just this: we can get a lot of franchisees to buy in. Their only concern was they don't want to sell haram food.
Right.
They came to us. We provided all the infrastructure. We gave them with all the resources, and the public said, "Why are you supporting a Jewish company?"
Right.
And we had internal debates on should we continue supporting them or not. We decided that we're gonna drop this Burger Inn program, and we're not gonna continue working with them anymore.
Really?
Because they came pretty hard on us, and they were saying, "Hey, we're not going to support Halal anymore." As a company, we decided we're going to drop Burger Inn. Now, who got affected from that? The people that got affected, yes,
It was the franchisees,
The franchisees.
and you,
Yeah.
the Muslims.
the Muslims, exactly. Now the Muslims don't have. We could have had a halal chain that had, I don't know, a lot of locations, probably more than 500 locations nationwide, that had halal food as an option, and we just stepped on our own toes. We just hurt ourselves by that, and somebody needed to have to look at it in a larger scope and say, at the end of the day, this is benefiting us. So the Muslims, like you said, the Muslims got hurt, and those Muslim franchisees, each one of them invested $500,000 to $600,000 to open a location. They're all closed down now.
Yeah.
Right? So
it's so interesting, because this is actually a very, very important discussion point. It's something unique to the Muslim community. It is so easy to get canceled as a Muslim. What do you guys think about that?
I think there's a lack of education.
Yeah.
And when I mean education, I don't mean school.
Yeah.
What I mean is, we like to put anything connected with Islam on a pedestal that is too high.
Right.
All right. For example, we have our heroes that we grew up, our heroes of these big Muslim leaders and big generals and all these things, and we think because of all the good that they did do, we make them superhuman.
Yeah.
And we expect Muslim businesses to be the people who are so successful. To get to that level of success, they made mistakes. We're not prophets. We're not angels. Right. We're a regular human being that makes those mistakes, and we like to make these. We like to mythologize these characters into something that bigger than they are. And I think we do the same thing with Muslim businesses. Mm-hmm. They have to be perfect, right? But they're going to make mistakes. They're going to do wrong things. And if they were doing them in the non-Muslim space, in the non-halal space, and halal not meaning food, if they were doing it in that space, it would be okay. But as soon as you try doing
the Muslim space,
Muslim space,
Yeah.
You're scrutinized. Yeah. So I think, if we were to look back, I think if we were to look back at history
Mhm.
and we see that these people or these businesses, they're run by humans that make mistakes, and we get a more rounded about view of it and
Mhm.
understanding of it, I think that would help.
Yeah. What do you think the world could have looked like if Burger Inn might have succeeded? Like, I don't know if other businesses failed because the Muslim community
Yeah,
kind of hit the red button on it.
The McDonald's opened up Halal McDonald's in Dearborn, where most of their population is Muslim over there. Then they shut down. Why? Because Muslims sued them, right? KFC, somebody went to KFC that we know, and he owns, I think, like 50 locations of KFC, and he's like, I want to switch my locations to Halal. And KFC said, hey, they pulled out a stack of lawsuits from Muslims saying,
What's causing this?
it's you're not doing the right halal, or it's what's your meaning of halal. We hurt ourselves for this reason. So I think Burger Inn was I was very excited about Burger Inn when they opened up, even though I'm in the same space, right, with my own restaurant. I didn't see it as competition. I saw it as they're paving the road for me, the road that I want to pave with Holy Cow.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing it for me, because I think the big guys, of course, they want to get into the space. It is so difficult today to increase your top line by 2%, 3%. The amount of work you have to put into to get one customer, the amount of money we have to spend to get one customer is so high. Imagine you were able to go to a brand and say, I can increase your potential customer base by 5 million.
Yeah.
Overnight.
Yeah.
Right? Who wouldn't want to do that?
Right.
Right. Today, like if you look at the battle today between, and if we're going to talk about fast food, it's the price to the, it's a race to the bottom.
Yeah.
Right.
It is.
And it's great for the consumer today. Everybody's trying to come out with cheaper food. Right. Taco Bell, $7.
Yeah.
Burger King, $6. Don't get no. McDonald's just came out with the $5 special with 4 items out. It's you're just trying to grab the consumer, and so they're decreasing their margins. They're doing everything they can to get to that consumer.
It's so interesting.
Imagine you get 5 million new customers. So
that are willing to pay.
That are willing to pay.
Yeah.
And like you said earlier, Muslims are an affluent customer base. Muslim halal food is a great industry because as Muslims, we can't go to concerts and bars and nightlife, but we still need entertainment for ourselves and for our family. Food is our biggest entertainment. We spend money on food. We like, what else are you going to do on a Friday night? There's not so much you can do as a practicing Muslim other than going out to food.
Yeah.
So we spend good money on food. So if I was McDonald's, I'm well informed. I have enough money that I have the data out there that there's this group of, why am I fighting Burger King for their customer base? There's a whole group out there that's untapped that we can do. It's just somebody has to pave that road. McDonald's is not going to take such a big risk. They're going to let someone else take it, and then they'll buy them out, or another a food group will buy them out.
Yeah, no, kind of stepping into my supply chain shoes. What you mentioned is so interesting because you're exactly right. I've worked in so many different companies where my goal was to reduce how much spend was going in to make sure the bottom line is green, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we see that in the food space, right? At the end of the day, there's not a lot of ways for you to get $1 more on the order or 50 cents more on the order. There's a lot of ways for you to cut costs, cut corners, let go of people. I know within Muslims, a lot of people are getting let go of right now, and they're in a space where they have to decide what they want to do next. Part of the reason is the way the capitalistic society of the world is going right now. Cutting costs is not going to happen, or making more money is not going to happen on the revenue side. It happens on the cost reduction side, right? Is that where Muslims come in our economy today? Is showing ourselves as, hey, we're that top line. We're your gateway to increasing your top line so that you actually have a path forward long term.
So we've done that on a small scale, on our scale, just to what you're saying, to give you an actual example.
Yeah.
There are many restaurants that are not Muslim owned, didn't have Muslims on their radar, but they weren't doing so well, right? And we went to them. We advertise and we sell to Muslim-owned businesses and non-Muslim-owned businesses. So we went to many of these non-Muslim-owned businesses and said, "Hey, you're barely making it, right? Why don't you give us a try? Let us supply you for 2 or 3 weeks. We'll advertise to our consumers that this place is temporarily having halal food. And then you decide 1 month later if you want it open or not. And there are many businesses, especially around the COVID time, that were on the brink of closing. And all they did was start carrying halal. They didn't switch the whole restaurant to halal, right? They just had a halal menu. And all of a sudden, right, what do we want as Muslim? We want to experience. So they wanted the experience. Oh, this steakhouse is now carrying halal. I want to go eat at a high-end steakhouse. And now if you walk into that steakhouse, it looks like you're in a Muslim-only business. It's all hijabis and Muslim people sitting over there and eating. And they make more money off of our business than they make anywhere else. So
what an amazing customer acquisition and sales strategy. Like ingenious. Whose idea was that?
Yeah. I mean, probably
we're just as a team, we're like why not reach out to those restaurants? Why not? Right? We have a couple of restaurants that we reach out to, and they say, sure, why not? We have a brand, we have a good marketing department.
Yeah,
we'll market you, and they're like, sure, let's try it out. And since COVID, they're still buying it. They're regular customers, and these are high end restaurants. So and young generation Muslims, they like this. They don't. I mean, as long as the food is good, they'll come to you.
Yeah,
and it's we don't in our industry, we don't have any high end restaurants right now, right? That they could serve good food. So these are the American restaurants. They've been in the business,
established. Yeah.
So why not?
Yeah, amazing.
And they take care of more of cross contamination than
they do
anyone else.
Yeah, they have it down to a science.
Exactly.
Yeah. Amazing. While we get into this, we're getting right into the meat of it, I guess you could say, with no pun intended. I wanted to learn a little bit about you guys, right? Mm-hmm. And I wanted to understand a little bit about your upbringing and what do you think were some of your defining moments from growing up, and who were you before entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so Danish and I, we're cousins.
Perfect.
He's originally from Pakistan. I was born in Flushing. And he moved in with us at the age of 16.
So you guys were almost like brothers, right?
Yeah.
Growing up.
We grew up. So he actually lived here for a couple of years before that. Then they moved back to Pakistan, and then he moved in with us to continue his education over here. At 16, we grew up in the same room and in Flushing. And at that time, my father was immigrant, came here in 1980, and worked the immigrant life, 2 jobs, 3rd job on the weekend, and did what he had to do to make our life easy. And if it wasn't for their hard work, I would have to do the hard work that he did. Yeah. So he set that platform for us to be able to open our own business, right? He wasn't able to open his own business until after working the 9 to 5 for 20, 25 years.
Yeah.
But I was able to open my own business right out of school. It's
just a certain spirit, a certain fiber that makes up, I think, specific people that are kind of meant for doing more than the 9 to 5. It's this inability to just sit down. So it's interesting that you say, and it's something that I was wondering if you think that's the one. Do you feel like you had that before you entered entrepreneurship, and do you feel like that's a key calling to knowing that you should be doing more than the 9 to 5?
Well, it definitely wasn't, in college, or I wasn't a studious person in college.
College for me was a business transaction. Get in, get out.
Yeah. I think it took me 10 years to get through a 6-year course in college. So, I wasn't, I went to pharmacy because I didn't get into medical. My dad's like, no, you got to become a doctor. Yeah. I didn't get in there, so got into pharmacy school, and that time pharmacy school wasn't as competitive to get in, so it wasn't school. Something clicked. I don't know at what phase. I was always against, and I don't think there's anything wrong doing the 9 to 5. I think there are many advantages of doing a 9 to 5, right? Things that 9 to 5ers have that I don't, right? There are many things they have. Many times they probably have a lot more than I don't.
Right.
Entrepreneurs have to sacrifice a lot, and many times it doesn't show, right? You see the few that make it, and you think, oh, it's worth it. But most of the people didn't make it, and they've sacrificed everything from family to deen to, I always tell myself, and I give myself an excuse, but it's hard for me to do. I think I have the capacity for two things, not three, to do two things the right way. But for me, there are three values that are important. One is the business, the entrepreneurship. Second is family. Third is deen. It's hard for me personally to do all three. I can do two efficiently. I can separate my time for two. To do three is tough for me. And sadly, Dean gets a back seat, and that's my goal. That I gotta try to do three. I haven't been able to successfully do it, and the hard part is that families. I don't want to compromise family for Dean. I want to compromise business for Dean, or I have to find a balance to try to bring Dean into there.
It's the one thing that separates a Muslim from the secular world, right? The fact that we can't just let go of, our deen. We can't just let go of family. We're not going to be rewarded for being selfish, right? We're not going to be rewarded for just being worrying about the individual, right? We, as Muslims, we have this focus on the success of the community, right? The success of the group, the unit. What do you think is important to kind of recontextualize in your mind if you want to be successful in those multiple things? If you want to be successful as a Muslim, right? As you know, our meaning of success is a lot more broader than the secular view. Yeah.
So I think I can tell you from my perspective, the way I see it is any success I've had in business is because of organization, because of prioritization. Those are my two things. And hard work is without say. I think every time I slack off a little bit, like that one day I need to unwind. At the end of the day, I'm not happy with myself because that's one day I'm behind. That's one day, maybe my competitor's working more than I am, and I can't beat him till I put that one day in. If somebody's working 5 days, I know I'll beat him. Eventually, because I put in 6. So I'll beat him. But if there's somebody doing 7, I can never beat him till I do 7 days. So hard work is there, and hard work has to be there. But after that, it's being organized and prioritizing. And if that works for me in business, I think I have to take that same approach in everything else, right? My deen also has to be that. I can't just say, oh yeah, I heard a good lecture. It was a good YouTube lecture I just saw.
Yeah.
I'm going to become more religious. If I take it that way, I've never done it. I have any success I've had, the little success I had in trying to get closer to Allah or any success I've tried to have in that, I've had to treat it with the same integrity that I do with business, right? Write it down, plan on it, check it off if it's done. If I treated it that way and put the same importance that I do in business towards deen, I've seen success. And anytime I kind of just took it lackadaisical that, now I'm going to go to the masjid more without putting it on a calendar, without putting it into a schedule. As crazy as that sounded some time ago, I've never had success doing it.
What was your life like before, starting this huge food chain? What was success like for you at that point? Like, were you kind of just set in your head, like I was just going to be a pharmacist until I retire?
What was set in my head was, I'm not going to work for somebody. Yeah, I'm not. I don't think working for somebody is bad. It's just not for me.
Right.
And it was always about creating something. It was always about doing something that was something that excited me. Right. No matter what. Growing throughout high school, I used to sell buy Uptowns and sell them and buy iPhones when those came out. No matter what, it was about buying something, selling something, doing something for myself. And that always translated over throughout growing up. So even I didn't want to go to college. I didn't want it. My father forced me to, and I told him by that time he owned his own business. And I said, I want to do what you do. Right. And he manages properties. And I said, I don't want to work. I want to do what you do. And he said, go to school first, get your degree, and then go do what you want to do. So right out of school, the best opportunity was to work in the pharmacy sector. So I found someone, a Muslim brother, only 2 years older than me, who owned a couple of pharmacies.
Oh wow.
And we had job offers from Walgreens, CVS, and good pay and good benefits and all that stuff. And I said, hey, I'll go to you. And he was out in the ghettos in East New York. Someone who is part of the reason for where I am today. His name is Fami, and he gave me an opportunity. I told him, hey, I want to work at your place, but I'm going to work at your place, and I don't know the business. I need you to teach it to me. And then I want, if I hit the marks, I want to open up a business with you.
Wow.
So he gave me that chance. Somebody straight out of school had no idea. And then after that, it goes back to the principles: work hard, be organized, people have to be able to trust you.
Yeah.
That's the biggest thing. Just be loyal and work hard, and someone's going to see the benefit in what you bring, and they're going to give you a chance. And he gave me that chance. 6 months later, I became a partner in his pharmacy, opened a second pharmacy with him, and that was the beginning of my pharmacy career.
SubhanAllah. At what point did it get to when it came to being involved in pharmacy before opening Holy Cow? Like, did you open multiple ones? Are you still involved?
Yeah. So after those were your mom and pop local pharmacies. From there, I saw an opportunity as a different sort of pharmacy, as a mail order type of pharmacy that I saw from that opportunity. So the next person in my journey that helped me out was someone a bit older than me. That was a seasoned healthcare person, not in the pharmacy space, but in healthcare. Had all the relationships that we needed, or that I needed, in order to make the pharmacy successful, the second type of pharmacy I wanted to do. So partnered with him. His name is Farouk, and he was the next person who brought years of experience and relationships and that network that I gained overnight just partnering with him, right? And ran pharmacies with him. We grew to quite a few throughout New York. Ran pharmacies with him for about 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good run, and we got heavy into healthcare in many businesses outside of pharmacy too. For me, it ran its course towards the end of it. He's a full-time healthcare guy. He's still in it, but for me, it ran its course, and then I exited out.
So, I mean, by every definition, Desi and non-Desi, you were a success, right? You had found a way for you to not only find a sustenance, but to be comfortable for the rest of your life. Why would you let that go?
Yeah.
To start in what's known to be one of the toughest spaces in the world.
Yeah, I mean, those successes came on a lot of failures, though. There was a lot more failures than, it was one success, maybe 9 failures. And the success was great, and alhamdulillah, the money was good, and yes, I had a comfortable life. And when I exited pharmacy, I actually was semi-retired. I was home for about 2 years. I wasn't really involved I have 4 kids. The first kid, I was still unemployed. I got married while I was still in school, in my last year of school. But then the 2 middle kids, I wasn't involved at all. I barely made the time they were born to the hospital. I barely made it over there because I was so busy in building the business that I needed. So I really missed out on a big portion of it. So my son, my youngest, I was pretty involved from the time he was born, and that's the time that I was exiting all the businesses. So that kid, I was really involved. I was home for some time. While being home, of course, you can't just sit around still working, but not running any day-to-day for anything. And then while we were in pharmacy, we had Holy Cow. It's just,
no way, really?
Yeah.
What was, I mean, every brand has a spark, right?
Yeah.
What inspired the idea behind Holy Cow? And obviously with everything going on, with how it was taking a toll on your family life, obviously as we were talking with Muslims, that's really important to us, right? You ended up exiting. What made you say to yourself, it's not just an idea, right? It's actually something that I should be doing.
So it goes back a little bit, being born here, raised here, you feel American more than you feel. Or my mom's from India, my father's from Pakistan, but I feel more American than I feel Indian or Pakistani.
Yeah.
I have some connection to over there, but when the cricket game was going on right now in America was in Pakistan, I was rooting for America. my dad's like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "What's some country?" I'm like, "This is a sport game. It's not a Islamic." Yeah, I'm rooting for America. I want America to win. So I, you feel American, and I went to public school, interacting with non-Muslims, but there was always a gap that wasn't able to be fulfilled, especially in the food space, because when you're young, a lot of life revolves around food. An example is cafeteria. In school they have Lunchables. So they bring in the crackers with the ham on it, or the pizza with the pepperoni, and we can't eat that. So there was always that gap of you feel American, you're speaking English is your first language, but you can't relate to them on that front, right? Or you guys are from Jersey, so bagel shops are part of our culture, right? You go to bagel shops for breakfast, you pick up a bagel, right? They're getting the bacon, egg, and cheese, and you're like, hey, I just want an egg and cheese. Or pizza places are part of our culture too. You go to pizza side, let me get a pepperoni slice, and I'm like, no, let me get a plain slice. Right? Or you go to the bodegas at nighttime and they're getting a chopped cheese or a turkey sandwich. And you're getting a Arizona iced tea with a bag of chips.
There it is, classic.
So there was always that gap, right, of the experience that everybody else was having and you weren't having the same way they were having.
Wow.
They wouldn't feel it, right? But you would feel it, right? You feel like you belong. You feel like you're part of, like everybody else, but there's something missing. Didn't really realize what it was until we had it, until, through Holy Cow and Halal now we built it for ourselves. That's when it really realized that there was something missing, but there was something missing inside. So there was a experience gap. There was a quality gap, right? Even later on, as we got older and some food places starting coming about, like a burger place, you would take your friends, you'd be like, hey, let's go eat over there because now you can have a burger. And they would eat that burger and, it just wouldn't be up to par. The quality wouldn't be there, right?
This is a huge issue. I think we grew up eating a lot of bad food because we wanted to stay on deen, right? And something that Ifat mentioned that's so I think funny but so true is that there's almost a gyro ceiling when it comes to flavor and the type of food that we were used to growing up. And he better coined it as the restaurant depot ceiling, because our uncles, what they would do is they would just leverage whatever they had easy access to, right? And what they had easy access to was this really cheap meat in the frozen section of Restaurant Depot that they would use to make whatever they would make. A lot of chickens over rice, a lot of like sandwiches, that kind of stuff, a lot of burgers that just, weren't up to par with what we were used to, with what we were getting home. We come from a culture of like biryani and so many different other cultures that have thousands of years history, right? It's amazing food that people have, traveled around the world to try. And then now we have our American version of it. And it's like this, like, a half an inch flabby, like, meat patty or something that is hot dog that just doesn't taste like real meat. It doesn't match, right? So that's something that's so interesting. And when you were thinking about starting Holy Cow, like, what about that experience growing up that, gave you the inspiration to do something different?
So it was one of those experiences that, we brought one of my friends, and I said, hey, let's go. There's a new spot that I can have a burger with. Let's go eat over there. And because before that, if we wanted fast food, we'd go to McDonald's and he'd have a Big Mac and I'd have a fish fillet.
Yeah.
Right.
The fish fillet is one of the most goated things
Yeah.
in American history. I remember traveling down to DC, and there were so many McDonald's we used to stop in, and I used to order the fish fillet.
Yeah.
It was like culinary insurance policy for Muslims,
Yeah.
man. Is wherever you go, you can always get a fish fillet. And even today, I have like a taste for it.
Yeah,
you
it's
know?
a nostalgia.
It's so nostalgic.
Yeah, other people won't understand, and
It's just different, you know. I don't want to support too much, but at the end of the day, it's. I think it's a critical part of Muslims in America. That good old fish fillet, steamed bun, half cheese. Still remember it.
Yeah.
So what was about like? What was,
so it was going to one of those burger spots. I told him, hey, a new burger spot came. I had it. I thought it was the best burger that possibly could be out there.
Yeah.
And I brought him over there, and he's like, hey, this burger sucks. It's like, that's not how a burger should taste. And so I told him, I said, hey, one day I told him, I said, why don't we just do it? Why don't we just do it the right way? Right. And he was dumb enough to say yes. I was dumb enough to see it through. And that's where it started. And then it goes back to those principles, right? The principles that I think any business goes, as long as you're willing to put in the work, as long as you can make anything successful. At that time, there was no, there were some people that we really looked up to in terms of, we're not the first, right? There are people that came before us that, helped us get to where we are. One of those are Honest Burger.
Yeah, I remember out in Renix to NYU.
Yeah, Honest Burger was something that, in my opinion, I'm sure there were others before them, but Honest Burger was one that really raised the bar. Right before them, there was not a good quality burger out, and when they came out, I was very excited. McDougal Street was a place we used to hang out as kids anyway, and then they opened up over there, and so everything was good. The vibe was good. It was fun hanging out on the street. Inside was good, and it closed those gaps that we had, right? Of having a quality burger good enough that non-Muslims would eat. Before that, a Muslim burger spot or a Muslim food spot, only Muslims would go there to eat because it wasn't good enough for anyone else.
Right. And it was in the worst places.
Yeah.
It wasn't a part of the experience of, let's say, New York or whatever city.
Yeah. So they were, we always looked up to them, and we always put them on high spot for us. And that was a place that I felt excited about going to. A place I felt pride for.
Yeah.
Hey, this place I can go eat. So when I told him one day that, hey, let's do it, and he said, yeah, let's. We both decided we're going to do it. We decided that if we're going to do this, we don't want to. It's going to start off as a fun project, but we need to validate it for ourselves. Is this something that can one day turn into a business if we want it to turn into a business? Or is this always just going to be, a fun project on the side?
Yeah.
So in order to do that, we decided we have to open up in Manhattan. And within Manhattan, we chose the Flatiron District, which is where we are, because that's the burger district of Manhattan, right? That's where 11 Madison Park has their famous burger when they were doing meat. Now they're vegan. And the first Shake Shack opened up there in Madison Park. So
talk about jumping right into the fire.
Yeah. So we had to open up there. We decided if we can make it there, then we know we have something that other people will want, and it's not just something we think is good.
I mean, it takes a lot of balls. It takes a lot of confidence to put yourself out in the burger hotspot of New York, one of the food capitals of the world. What do you feel like led you to a winning recipe, or was your goal in the beginning to like build a winning recipe to be able to compete with your neighbors at that point?
Always felt like I needed a validation of non-Muslims to tell me, which till today, when we make a new item, I go to the non-Muslims and say, hey, what do you think?
Yeah.
Because they have a lot more exposure to than just the Muslim crowd. If I so I needed that validation. I needed it to be in the right place, but it was going back to the basics of understanding what makes a good burger. Right? It's not a kebab burger that we grew up eating, right? And it's not the ground meat that we're used to, right? When we first started Holy Cow, I said, hey, let me start. And I went to the butcher shop and I said, give me some ground beef.
Yeah.
Right, and he gave it to me in a slimy bag, and the place smelled nasty, and the butcher wasn't so sanitary, but that's where we buy our meat from. That's normal to us, right? And it wasn't until there was something better that we realized that that's, the standards need to be better. So I mean, made a burger out of that. Then we realized, hey, you got to choose the right category of cows. Desis eat dairy cows, right? So before the 1940s, 1950s, when there weren't that many Desis or Caribbeans or Africans, immigrant Africans in this country, at the end of the life of a dairy cow, they would shoot the cow because it's not fit for consumption. They have heavy hormones because they're commercially feeding for their whole life.
Yeah, for dairy. Yeah.
So all those hormones make the meat tough. It's the same as a bull. Bull meat is very tough because they have all that testosterone, especially commercial bulls that are there just for to make more cows. So all of that makes the meat tough. Americans, for burgers and steakhouses, they use steers. Right? Most the halal market didn't have an established market behind that. Steers are castrated males, so they never build that testosterone to toughen up their meat. That's what's used for burgers, right? So when I made that ground beef patty from the halal meat shop, didn't have, and my friend was with me, and he goes, "No, it's not there." So then we did some more research. Okay, it has to be a steer. Where can we get steers from? Then we did some more research, and it should be fed. This is the type of feed it should have, right? You can go two ways. You can go grass-fed, or you can get grass-fed grain finished. I'm going down a hole right now, but
so interesting. This is so relevant today, especially with everyone moving towards tracking not only what they eat, but what they ate. You know what I mean? So this is super interesting.
Yeah. It's important to get there if you want the taste in your food the way you want it. And what we did was we looked at the best places and how did they do their sourcing. So we had to go back to that and find a farm, which wasn't the hardest part. What was the hardest part was once we found those farms, are they willing to do a halal slaughter the way we need it to be slaughtered? The demand wasn't there. Right. The consumer base wasn't there. So, okay, yeah, I found the farm. Yeah, we can do it for you. You got to kill 300 heads. Like, oh, that's going to last me 10 years. And holy cow, what am I going to do with 300 heads of cattle?
Yeah.
Right? And I only need this portion because it's also the portion of meat you're going to use. Right. And when we were younger, on a special occasion, we would want a steak. We go to the butcher shop. He would just cut a piece of the cow, and we're thinking we're eating steak.
Right. Yeah.
But the ribeye comes from a specific section that brings it that taste.
Right.
So
this was your first big challenge when it came to launching and finding the recipe for holy cow.
Yeah. It was education because I was not in the space. I wasn't a foodie before that. Enjoyed eating food, but I wasn't. It's not like I was cooking in the kitchen every day, and it wasn't a passion. It is now, but it wasn't at that time. So it was going back. So the big challenge was you found the farm. Now the farm says, yeah, we can do it for you, but we're not going to go out of our way and change our slaughtering method and expect one of your guys to show up to our place, make them clean our equipment, tell us how to do things for 2 cows.
Yeah.
Right? You got to do a whole run. And their runs were 300 to 500 head. That's like a $500,000 drop in inventory on a perishable item, right? So, the barrier of entry was pretty tough in getting it in according to halal. And for me, my halal standards are it has to be hand slaughtered, and there's 2 agencies that we abide by, which is HMS and Hafsa. And HMS was on the East Coast at that time. Hafsa was still not here. So, we do everything according to their guidance. And so that gap between what we wanted and how to get it was difficult. We had to overcome it.
What's that story? Did you end up buying just 2 cows, keep it in your backyard, and
so we convinced. someone to give us a smaller run. It still was a large run. And me not really having, I'm the type of guy that does first and thinks later. And
Sounds
more
like
times than not, it doesn't work out. So the guy's like, yeah, you need to order, 10,000 pounds of this cut. And I'm like, all right, let's do it. And we had to pay him the money and we had to do everything. And I have no idea what 10,000 pounds are. And I didn't plan for it till the trucker said, I'm coming down your block. And
you had 10,000 pounds of meat pulling up to your house.
Yeah, because I didn't have a facility at that time. And I had to talk a big game to the farmer. Saying, we do this all the time. 10,000. Yeah, we do 40,000, but I need to test out your stuff. So I'm only going to test it out at 10,000. Yeah. If it's good, don't worry. Next week, I'll give you an order for 40,000. So he's assuming, everything's okay. He's like, you're going to drop it? I said, yeah, drop the truck. Don't worry. And the trucker's calling down the block. He goes, this is a residential neighborhood. I can't bring a tractor trailer down your block. I was like, what are you talking about? We do this every week. Do you know how to drive? And so he's coming down the block, and then he calls me 2 minutes later. He's like, I'm not coming down here any further. And he's like, I knocked down an electric wire because you weren't allowed to have big trucks down.
Yeah.
It was a nightmare. So he got really pissed and unloaded it on the side of the road, on the main road. He backed up. Traffic was backed up like blocks. And then I called my partner. I'm like, hey, I would need your help over here. I got 10,000 pounds over here on the street. And I thought it would fit in, a chest freezer, about a 1/8-foot chest freezer from Home Depot. I thought it would fit in there. So it was an issue. But we figured it out. It came in, and then.
We need to hear the story. Yeah. How did you get 10,000 pounds of meat from parachute from the side of your road?
I called my wife, asked her how much space she has in her fridge.
Oh my God.
No. So we had to, we fit as much as we can in the freezer. We had to reach out to local businesses and say, hey, can I temporarily put some stuff in your place? And then we rented a cold storage.
Yeah, it's a really smart idea.
Yeah. But it was put there for a couple of hours. Yeah. We had to rent out a cold storage. We had to rent out a refrigerated truck. And then we temporarily stored everything over there.
Yeah. So at this point, you couldn't fail. You threw 10,000 pounds of meat worth of money at this idea. I'm not sure if the real estate was set up yet, but I'm guessing, were you in too far to fail?
So the thought process over there was, so when we decided to do Holy Cow, we leased a place and it was under construction. At that time, I didn't even make my first burger. I didn't know anything about a menu. I have zero food experience. So at that point, we're trying to figure out sourcing. Yeah. While construction's going on and that stuff's going on. So the thought process was 10,000 pounds would last us 6 months. If nobody bought it from us, Halal wasn't around at that time. If nobody bought it from us and we were stuck with it ourselves, it would last us 6 months. So we said, hey, let's just do it. So that's basically where
caution to the wind.
Yeah. As long as there's an out, right? The out was worst case scenario, it's 6 months. So, and my partners were like, what if Holy Cow don't work? Yeah. I said, well, then maybe that's 2 years for home consumption.
You come over, I'll come over.
Yeah.
How much capital did you have tied up at this point to get it to just the opening day?
Opening in Manhattan is expensive.
Yeah.
Right. Construction's expensive. Securing a lease is expensive. So I think the first location we were in probably a little over 300.
Yeah. Wow.
To build a place, and then all in all, probably to get the place to the level we wanted after opening, we probably had to put in about another 100.
Wow.
To the place.
So you were in deep, right? What was those early days like? Was it just a huge success right from the gate? What was the feedback?
It was. So,
really?
It again, and not as a point of something to be proud of. It's a lot of the stuff was kind of just, we'll see what happens. there's a lot of planning beforehand in terms of quality and control and all of that. But in terms of what's going to happen tomorrow is not, written out on my end. So we're opening the place, we're a week out, and my working partners bailed a week from before opening. They kind of said, "Hey, we don't want to do this anymore."
Oh wow!
And they were the guys who were going to work on the inside, right? In terms of flipping burgers, operating the place, managing the place. So a week before opening, while we're getting everything else lined up, the guy said, "Hey, we're out, and whatever money we put in, we want that back too." So that was a bit challenging. Last minute, we called one of my partner's close friend who had food experience, 9 years operating a deli.
Yeah.
And he moved back to Europe, and we called him. We said, "We need you back. We need you over here to operate this. We'll give you a piece of the business. We don't know what the hell we're doing over here.
Yeah.
And we don't know the first thing. Like, we're still trying to come up with,
the recipe.
Yeah. What the hell we're doing. Can you come?" And he was bold enough to give it a shot. He interviewed us on, "What do you guys know about food?" And we didn't know what the hell we were talking about. And he's like, I don't think it's going to work. But he gave it a shot. And he's like, "When do you need me to come?" I was like, "Tomorrow." And we sent him a flight, and he came here. And alhamdulillah, if it wasn't for him, we'd be in big trouble because we knew nothing about actually operating a burger place.
What was different about Holy Cow that made it appealable in the burger hotspot of New York?
So there was that gap of experience and quality that was voided. That there was an empty spot in us. I think many Muslims felt that too when they came to Holy Cow. Right? It was in downtown. It was kind of like it really was a hole in a wall. Right? We were renting out a front section of a desi restaurant on the second floor, so it had that going for it. We thought it would be against it, but it actually had that going for it.
Really? Wow.
Right? Non-Muslims found it really cool that there's this hidden spot and it's really good. And they would grab a samosa with a burger, which was exotic for them. So they went to the back restaurant and picked up some. So it ended up working out. Like for us, Desi were like, "Oh, this is kind of weird. We got a Desi spot in the back," but they found it the coolest thing in the world. So for the Muslims, it closed up that hole that they had, where they were getting a halal burger that they can be proud of. They can take a picture and post it, and there were non-Muslims eating there as well. Right. So it was the whole community of just being American.
Right. And you didn't was there explicit marketing from a lot of times when you go into a halal restaurant, you see like halal banners, signs, neon as soon as you walk in. It wasn't like that for Halal now. It wasn't like that for Holy Cow.
We weren't Bismillah Burger.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You didn't call it like Halal King or something.
Yeah, those are the names that were given to me as suggestions. All of the suggestions were those.
Like, how did you have what went into the thought process of picking a name that wouldn't explicitly be something like you said, Halal Burger or Bismillah Burger or something like that?
I think in order for the thought process was always that first Holy Cow was a test for us to see if it could be something that can be expanded later. Yeah. And if it was a brand built for Muslims, and that has its limitations.
Wow, interesting.
So it had to be something that can be accepted by everybody. Yeah. If we have Quran playing in there, it'll throw some people off. I'm not justifying the music that's playing in there, but it'll throw some people off. Yeah. So we had to make it that, like, we don't call it beef bacon. Right. We call it bacon. Bacon. Yeah. Right? So we did it that way. That's interesting. Yeah. Yeah. We don't. So that gap, I think, was the big portion in why what Muslims felt about it. Mm-hmm. Even though that location and all of our Holy Cow locations, our most Muslim consumer base in one location is only 40% Muslim.
Oh wow!
Yeah. Most of our locations are less than 20%. meaning most of our customer base are made up of non-Muslims.
Right.
And the non-Muslims are the ones who, are the ones where the lines were out the door every single day.
Yeah.
So the Muslims would come on weekends or at nighttime. They'd come for dinner.
Right.
But the people were filling out the place 90% of the time were non-Muslims.
Holy cow wouldn't be a success if it wasn't for that output of non-Muslims.
Yeah.
You're supporting that traffic, turning the inventory.
Yeah.
Right.
And they're not coming in because it's halal. They're coming in because they like the food.
Amazing. So it's almost like a Muslim classic at this point. There's so many restaurants that Muslims open that are amazing the first 24 hours. And there's like this progressive deterioration of not only flavor and quality, but like drive from the owners. What was the challenges like when it came to building up Holy Cow from its success opening to not only being a brand that people can trust and like from the start, but also a place where it could scale, to multiple places? Yeah. How did you not fall into the Muslim classic?
So that scalability is what led us into Halal. Really? It was we always hoped we'd be as busy as we were, but we didn't really know until it happened. And we were selling burgers by day, and by night we were pattying burgers. Wow. Just to have enough for the day. And we'd be sold out many times halfway through the day. Hey, sorry guys, we're sold out. Because we had things that we weren't willing to compromise on. One was our halal standards we had, and one were our quality standards. And because of the lack of infrastructure in that space, we were limited to operating within that infrastructure. So when we sold out, we just wouldn't get meat from anywhere. Either on quality or halal. We'd rather be sold out. Right. And for me, we're not going into Holy Cow with the intentions of being inside the business to run it, which today I am running Holy Cow full time, but at that time that wasn't my intention. I had to create systems and processes that allowed the business to scale. At that time, scale wasn't number one priority, but in terms of having processes and systems in place to have the business run efficiently without being stuck in the day-to-day that most halal businesses were stuck in at that time.
Now you're talking about something like the McDonald method, almost.
Yes. So
it's a pretty scientific approach.
Yeah. So like Muslim businesses, halal food businesses at that time, right? Like you said, they need meat. They're running to Restaurant Depot. Nobody's delivering it to their door in any specific way. If you're a meat shop, you get a whole cow delivered to you. Nobody's giving you parts. When you're doing burgers, it's a specific blend of burgers, a specific part of the cow that you need. That wasn't available in the market. You would have to buy a whole cow, get it butchered, cut down at a butcher shop. Yeah. All your groceries, all your supplies, you're sitting back there grinding it yourself, patting it, which is what we were doing in the opening days of Holy Cow. We were buying parts of meat, butchering it ourselves, and grinding it every night and pattying it. But it definitely wasn't a model that could be pushed out. And the consistency wouldn't be there.
Right.
Again, scalability wasn't, in terms of scalability, meaning more than one location, wasn't on the horizon at that time. It was just, how can I not come here every single day, every single night to patty burgers for the next morning? Wow. And that's how Now started. We had to find a place that would patty burgers for us. And now we came under the same problem we had before that we hit when we were going to the farm. A place that's going to make patties for you, 50,000 pounds of patties. I don't need 50,000 pounds of patties.
It's a lot of burgers
today, right? I need enough patties to get me through the week. 50,000 pounds of patties is a lot of cash flow. Who's going to do that? How are we going to do that? And then when we find somebody that would be willing to work with us at a lower volume, are they going to be willing to deal with the strict halal standards, which we hold ourselves to?
Yeah.
And they're very strict. Our halal standards are, I would say the strictest, right? The most orthodox view of halal is the one that we go by. So to abide by those standards for a very small return for the processor
Right.
is tough. But we found someone, and their name is Burke Lombardo, and they're an Italian USDA processor out in Long Island. And the guy's been in the business. His name is Paul Lombardo. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be where we are.
What was that conversation like?
We walked into his place because he's very old school. He's been in the business for over 60 years. So we go up to him and we kind of just knock on his door at his office, and he's like, "Who the hell are you guys?" And we say, "Hey, we need some burgers."
Yeah.
And he gave us a shot while everyone else said no.
Wow.
Everyone was like, I have there's no way I'm going to do this, and it's not enough money for me. And
right.
He gave us a shot, and he said, "Hey, I don't know if this is going to go anywhere." He didn't even know how to say halal. Right. But he goes, "I don't know if this is going to go anywhere, but I like you guys, and I think it's going to work. So let's give it a shot."
Wow.
And if it wasn't for him, he taught us everything we know today in the industry. Right.
Wow.
He was an older guy at the end of his career. He's still alive today. And he's still healthy and a strong guy. And but every time we met him, which in the earlier days was 2-3 times a week, as busy as he was and successful business as he had, and yet he has a very successful business, he would stop everything, we would sit in front of him, he would talk to us for 2 hours.
Why was that? What was different about you guys?
I don't think it was us. I think it was him. I think he was at the end of his career, or he is hopefully, he has many more years to come, but he already lived out his career, and he was at that point where it was time for him to give back. And I think I'm hoping that that's what he saw in us, right? We were very eager to learn, and he would just tell us everything about his experiences, about how to do things, how not to do things, what we were doing wrong, how we should position ourselves. And we listened, and we did everything he said. And till today, we have a great relationship with him. And so that was one more of those critical people. There are many people who were those stepping stones for us, and he's one of them.
SubhanAllah. Yeah. It sounds like you not only, with the idea of scaling and finding a more efficient way of running Holy Cow, you had the idea for Hal and Al. At that point, was it just like a concept?
I think that, that moment where Hal and Al became more than just a provider for Holy Cow is when... So for Holy Cow, what we had to do was we had to process everything portioned. Portioning was very important for cost of goods. Before we weren't portioning, they're pattying. Some ounces, some patties are 5 ounce, some patties are 6 ounce. You have your margins built, as you know, in the food industry. It's very, very tight. It's a penny business. So if you built your menu items based off your cost of goods at 5 ounce and you start giving 5.3 ounces, you lose your shirt with it very quickly. So creating those standards, and the standards come in many different ways. Moving from processing in our kitchen over to a USDA center, whose standards are a lot higher, and where things can get done at much better quality. Once we did that, and we provided a solution to businesses where they were able to not worry about that portion of the business, we realized that there are many other businesses that want the same thing.
Was that the aha moment that made you realize we're going to disrupt the halal meat market, not just the New York City burger space?
It started with there's a Sam's Steakhouse in Valley Stream, one of the older steakhouses in New York. Now there's a few more. But Sam's Steakhouse, Qadri uncle, he was another person in our story who is the reason why we've been successful. And probably, as many stories are, there's always people there who are critical to you getting where you need to be, and that's probably important for the overall theme that we have this Muslim community, we have great people here. And if we're able to support each other, you don't know who you're going to help and what you're going to say to someone and how it impacts their life later, right? This Qadri uncle, he didn't know. He was just one guy in the masjid. And I knew he had a steak place. And I went to him even before Holy Cow and I said, hey, I want to open up a restaurant. Right. And he gave me all the reasons why I shouldn't open it. Right. But at the end of it, if you're going to open it, which was very important, right? Most people are very critical and they'll just tell you don't do it.
Yeah.
He told me all the reasons why I shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
But he says, if you're going to do it, come by my place. I'll show you some stuff.
SubhanAllah.
Right. He opened up his kitchen and he showed me a lot of things that I needed to know. Mm-hmm. So for the steaks, when we were ordering, because part of our sourcing is we only source choice grade meat, right? It's one level below prime. Choice grade meat is usually not used in burgers, but that's part of our standards. All of our meat is always choice grade. So we were sourcing very high quality meat. Too high quality for burgers, but that's the standard that we set. One of our shipments, I ordered some steak and I showed it to him and he goes, this steak is great. Now he was facing the same problems in his own world.
Right.
Yeah.
Because, yeah.
So, the midsection, so you get one tenderloin which is a filet mignon. You get one tenderloin out of one cow. Tenderloin's maybe 8 pounds, 10 pounds, right? That's the most famous cut.
Yeah.
You go to a steakhouse, most people will eat a tenderloin, unless you know your meats and you're getting like a strip steak or something else. Your common steakhouse person that's coming to eat there once a year is going to say, I want a filet mignon.
Right.
So, how many filet mignons can you get out of a steak? And now you're sourcing halal, you're cutting a whole cow. He never had a consistent supply of good quality beef. He had great quality beef, it just wasn't consistent. So that was his gap. Mm-hmm. And we were able to fulfill that gap because we're not using the mids.
Right.
So we made a great partnership. He gave us a shot, right? Which if he didn't give us that shot, right, we're nobodies in the market. We've never sold a pound of meat. We're some new guys that, just started a burger place. And we told him we want to be your providers for steak.
Yeah.
And he gave us a shot.
Something I really want to understand with this episode, and maybe Danish, you could pitch in on this one. I wanted to understand specifically with the halal meat market being, or the industry itself being very complex. Can you break down the economics behind it, right? Why is providing or why is building halal now specifically and providing really high quality meats to open up the culinary space for Muslims in America and onward such a complex and unique issue?
Before Halal, people they'll buy anything from butcher shop. It's not a good quality meat. If you want your customers to come back, why would they come back? Because the food quality food is good, right? If the food is good, they will come. Yes, you're gonna end up paying extra money to buy the product, but at the end of the day, that customer is your customer now. He will come back to you. Why Holy Cow is successful? Holy Cow is successful because of the quality of the product that delivered.
Right.
So if Adil was buying meat from a butcher shop, it's not the same quality meat.
Right.
You could tell. So I think that was one of the reasons.
What's the economics behind halal and non-halal?
So there's economics in the general meat industry, which is if we go to beef, right? A steer, which is the category of meat that we buy. Yeah. The ripe age for slaughtering a steer is 16 to 20 months. So you need to plan 16 to 20 months before your slaughter date, right? So today's slaughter had to be somewhat planned 16 months ago. So there's that portion of it.
Being a demand and supply planning person that sent PTSD.
Yeah.
That's scary.
All of a sudden you get a new customer and they want an extra 10,000 pounds of meat. The halal industry, remember what I was saying earlier, the people who are willing to provide, there's more than enough resources. America is one of the biggest producers of meat in the world. And the best meat in the world, America has. You have Japanese Wagyu and all that, but But American beef is considered very high quality around the world. And when I say America, I mean America and Canada combined as one. So that supply chain, having someone who's willing to follow the halal standards that you're willing to follow, there's not 15 players in the space. There's 2 or 3 players in the slaughterhouse beef space who are providing this service.
Right.
You can't just call them and say, I need an extra 10,000 pounds. They're not trying to overproduce. They're doing it based off of projections set out 16 months ago.
It's a high value perishable good. It's impossible.
Yes.
Yeah. I totally understand what you mean. And when it comes to like specifically the success of Halal, you were talking about the margins when it comes to like a food business. Like, holy cow, what's the margins like in like a halal? It's got to be even worse.
3%.
3%.
How do you survive with something like this where you have almost no forecast accuracy?
It's a volume game.
Is it?
For example, if I need to buy chicken, right? If I buy 40,000 pounds, I'll save 3 cents a pound.
That's it.
Right? If I buy 20,000 pounds, because it's all about shipping, right? The FOB price is the FOB price if you buy 40,000 pounds or 100,000 pounds.
Yeah.
The price doesn't change. But the trucking makes a big
transportation.
difference.
That's what it is.
So, I'll give you an example right now. Usually, I pay, say, $1,500 for shipping.
Right.
From the slaughterhouse to my warehouse. Because of a holiday, I gotta pay $500 extra, $2,000. Now I have to make sure that I buy extra meat to cover that $500.
Right. Halal food is notoriously expensive in America. It's rough, right? And when you eat halal, like you said, it's kind of our form of entertainment. We have to kind of pull it into the entertainment bucket of cost, right? And is the future of affordable, expectably good quality halal food just like a volume game?
Yeah, I think there's 2 ways of looking at it. One approach that some people look at it is the consumer should change their habits where you only eat halal, and some people, you only eat hand slaughtered wherever you are. And that will pick up demand. We take it as a different approach. We take it as there should be more competitors in the space. There should be more entrepreneurs coming in the space. And the more people, because there's a big opportunity here that is being untapped. And it is being untapped by the people who are not in it. The people who are in the business, they're doing well because there's not that much competition in here right now. And people think there's not competition. People think there's not enough opportunity. There are more opportunities than we can catch up to.
Why do you say that?
We really don't have an outgoing sales program in Halal now, right? We have an internal sales, existing customers, servicing them, etc. There are more opportunities available than we can catch up to. So in terms of, if more competitors come in the space, automatically quality will go up. The people who are not providing good service, those slimy butcher shops, they will shut down. They won't make it because there's better quality available. The people who are not providing, so quality will go up, prices will go down. The more competitors that come in the space. The more quality goes up, prices come down. The lower the barrier for consumers to buy the product, right? If you're buying milk at the grocery store and you see organic milk at $8 and you see regular milk at $4, you'd be like, I'll just buy the regular.
Yeah.
Right. But if it's $4 and $4.25, you're going to pay the 25 cents extra. I'll buy organic. Even if you're not a full-time organic consumer, you'd be like, hey, this is healthier.
The good stuff. Yeah.
So I think if the barrier is brought down for the consumer, I think automatically the example was the barrier before when we got in the business, and we're not seasoned veterans. We're very new, especially in the meat industry that is a business that gets passed down generation to generation. Yeah. Anybody we speak to, we've been in it for 75 years. They're like, what about you guys? Like, hey, it's been 7 years for us. Like, what are you guys doing talking to us? So, so even when we got in, the barrier between halal and non-halal was drastic. We're talking about $1.25 for breast, and our breast was $4.75. Right?
Oh my God.
That barrier has come down quite a bit. And the reason why is because back in the day, the only way you can get halal is going to the butcher shop, not the butcher shop, but the small slaughterhouses that would slaughter it for you. You can only get a whole chicken.
Yeah.
And then you got to cut out, and that was another problem. Businesses that wanted to make a fried chicken sandwich out of breast, you can't just buy breast. You got to buy the whole chicken. What are you going to do with the rest of the parts?
Yeah.
Same problem that Sam's Steakhouse had with the steaks. So that barrier has gone down quite a bit. And as it does, it makes it easier for the consumers that are on the edge of, they want to do the right thing, but it has to be affordable and it has to be easier, right? Everyone knows organic is better than non-organic, but are you willing to?
Right.
If you're making $1 million a year, you'll buy organic. Yeah. But if you're, worrying about paying the electricity bill, you're not going to pay $4 more for organic milk. Right. So the same problem was in halal earlier. Yeah. It's the same problem today. That barrier is lower, and I think as that gap closes, I think more and more consumers will switch over to halal who are on the edge, and as more consumers get into halal, the consumption will go up. Yeah. And then the bigger players will get in. As the bigger players get in, the price keeps going down.
Yeah. Amazing. No, what you mentioned something really interesting. And it had to do with the fact that you're approaching halal the same way that you approached Holy Cow. You're not just going after Muslims, Bismillah burger. Mm-hmm. You're actually going after the big players and saying that you have a product that better fits the needs of their customers. Mm-hmm. Right? What's the messaging behind halal? And how do you go after the big players in this kind of space?
So big players, I'll give you an example of like customers where they want to adopt halal, and not necessarily, some of them for the economics, some of them they just want the highest. They want to be all inclusive, or they want to fit the highest bar.
Yeah, I mean, you see that now, especially with like free range eggs or seed oils, right? People move away from that. Yeah,
like we have a lot of universities as customers of ours. They're not necessarily buying from us because it's hand slaughtered. They just, hey, we want to provide halal, and we know we want to provide halal because a lot of our students are Muslim. But nobody ever has the standard to provide halal to a university. A university has high standards. Yeah. You need to be USDA center. They want things professionally portioned, professionally packed, storage, delivery. They want SQF certified. Mm. These are all things that very few Muslim meat industry businesses are willing to pursue. Mm. And I'm sure there are others, but at least in the Northeast, when we got into it, there was really nobody. Mm. And us getting in there, then it was just left to the point that, hey, there is somebody willing to do it, right? So other examples are, airports and airlines and other institutional accounts that would love to have the higher standard available if you fit their standard.
Mm. Airlines would be insane. That'd be a huge step up in business. Would you guys be able to support that kind of volume?
We do airlines right now.
You guys do airlines right now? Where are you guys in?
So the way that the airlines work is everyone except Emirates First Class, which Emirates First Class is like a whole world on its own, right? Everyone else uses central commissaries to make their food for the airlines. Yeah. The airlines are very, very strict, right? And it's sad to say the non-Muslims are a lot stricter in halal than the Muslims are. Really? Because Muslims just feel like, hey, we know. And they know all the loopholes on how to escape out, right? The non-Muslims are so scared on following standards that they may be breaking rules that they go the extra mile. All right. For example, in the airlines, the central commissaries that we supply to, they even have halal salt. Right? And there's somebody capitalizing off of that. It's not us, but somebody's capitalizing off of that. Right, I'll give you a story. When we serviced to NYU, and
we're getting into halal napkins next, okay?
and NYU calls us, right? NYU calls us and says, we want to start thing. Then I get a call at 12 midnight from the head chef the morning of our delivery. They're like, oh my God, we forgot to get blessed containers. And I'm like, what? And he's like, blessed containers. We didn't buy blessed containers from you because in kosher it was behind blessed.
Yeah.
And first 2-3 times I'm like, what? And then I'm like, yeah, I got blessed containers, $20 a pop.
And he took it.
Yeah, we charged him and then we took it away. We gave him the credit back. I called him the next day. I was like, look, I'm going to tell you the truth. This is not kosher. There's no such thing as blessed containers. Don't worry about the line item on the invoice. They just need to be new containers. You can buy whatever new containers you have. You don't have to. So somebody's selling halal salt to the airlines. But
oh yeah, we need to get on that. Right after this episode, we're gonna get on halal salt, halal sugar.
But so they're very, very strict in the airlines in segregating halal versus non-halal in terms of cross contamination.
Yeah.
A problem that the airlines have is they have to rely on the distributors to provide halal.
Okay.
Now that distributor, there's two people who provide halal in the airlines. One is us and one is someone else. The other distributor is really not halal. He just kind of tells, because we know who he is. He's non-Muslim.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the airlines do have halal. We do provide to them, but it's not like, hey, we provide to British Airways. We do sell to British Airways, but we don't have all of British Airways. Mm-hmm. We provide a certain amount. The other company provides a certain amount. Where our meal is going, our meat, could be on your seat, or could be on your seat, or could be on someone else's flight. There's no way of tracking down that this is that.
Do you have to request halal for that, or are they including that in like non-halal menus as well?
These are it depends. Some of the airlines use our meat as general.
Wow.
So everything is. Some of them use it for only their halal options.
Yeah.
But the problem, a lot of people will call and say, "Hey, I'm flying over here. Can I eat the halal over there?" I always tell them no, because I know for a fact that the other company is absolutely not halal, and the airlines just don't know about it. They're not doing anything wrong.
Right. They're just trying to accommodate, right?
Yeah, exactly. They're unfamiliar with all the nuances of.
Wow.
So.
No,
right?
No, there is no way.
There's no traceability, right?
Even when I fly, on the same airlines that we provide to, I don't eat there because there's a good chance that meat could be the other person's, the other suppliers.
Yeah, you should get it stamped.
And for the other supplier, it's so easy to get a halal certificate from anywhere. It's
that's all they're looking for.
Because that's what you have to provide the kitchen.
Blessed container, as long as you have that, you're okay.
Exactly.
But it's opportunities like these, and there are a lot available. And
I was wondering, where's the company at today? Right, with how old is it, and where is it at today?
We're 7 years, I think.
7 years in.
2018 or 19.
2018.
19. Okay.
Yeah. So that's where we are. We are still growing. With your mom and pop shops, they make up the core of our business. Our business is still that. But as an example, to go over what you were talking about, the economics, right?
Right.
If we were to sell 100,000 pounds of meat in a week, that would be, those 3% margins. Everything else that makes up all of that is storage. Operating out of a USDA place is not cheap. It's very expensive.
Yeah.
Abiding by their standards. Having refrigerated trucks.
Right.
Employees. putting up money way in advance to buy product, warehousing it. And
seems like a very cash intensive business.
Very
cash intensive.
Cash flow is monitored multiple times throughout the day. Every decision has to be. It could be the smallest decision. It could be $1,000, right? Wow. In the amount of volume, the amount of money going in and out every day. $1,000 is nothing.
Even today, where you're at today, it's still being that granular.
Needs to be.
This is our discussion was in the car half the time. What are we gonna do with this? What are you gonna do with this?
Right, it was a small bill. Now she's like, I'm a pay. I'm like, hold on. It seems like a small bill. I said, let's get on the call with the accountant. If we and the point wasn't that we were wrong in assuming it's a small bill or not. The point was we still have to be disciplined.
Right.
And we still have to make our decisions based off of the projections of the next 2-3 weeks. Because if we lose that discipline, everything else crashes.
Is there a moment or was there a moment where you thought it was all going to come down?
Many moments.
No.
Many moments.
I don't mean to recall PTSD for you guys, but I'm wondering. It seems like you guys have such a determination and a diligence, right? The discipline to get through this kind of stuff, right? How did you build that, right? Like, especially you guys were not in the food space before this, right? But now you guys are so well versed, and it looks like you guys are ready for the future of halal food in America, which is looking like it's very bright.
Yeah, I think that the partnership over here is important. There are days that I'm down and I need a pick me up and he's there for me, or days that he's just like,
I'm done. I can't do this anymore.
Right. There are many internal quits between us.
Yeah.
This is on you now. I'm out.
Are you guys allowed to give like a quit balance? Like you get one quit a month?
But you know, we're able to support each other. When I'm having a hard time, he'll be like, hey, you know, I'll take over your stuff for a couple of days, and vice versa. So
it's important.
Having a good partner on your side is probably the most important thing.
What's the goal for Halal? You guys are still very well involved with Holy Cow. It's doing great. Actually, you recently just opened up very close to the studio, which we can thank you guys for that one. But what's the vision? What's the goal behind it?
I think it's just a matter of time till it becomes mainstream. How we were talking about earlier, and how businesses would love to tap into this Muslim population and all of the dollars being spent that they're not making money off of today. And I think if we raise our bar in terms of standards, quality, pricing, and if we stick to those, and I think it's just a matter of time till halal food is standard, and you can walk into any place. It won't be a halal menu. It's just everything will be halal. Just because the price difference is really not that much,
right, between
halal and non-halal, right? It's just at the time of slaughter. We're not like kosher. It doesn't need to be kept in salt and away from dairy and all the crazy requirements that are required in kosher. Ours are too at the time of slaughter, and then just don't cross-contaminate.
Right.
And
how does halal meat end up becoming such a premium product in the space?
It's just lack of competition. The people who are in it are making money. There's nothing else to it.
Oh, is it?
They can say a million things, but they're making money. Of course, the cost of a machine cutting something versus hand cutting it is a slight difference. But the slight difference is there because their demand is not high enough to develop the technology to make it cheaper, right? And the proof is right now, you know, the cost of chicken has gone way down compared to where it was 7-8 years ago. And we just started. We just scratched the surface. So it will come to a point, and it's been proven in other countries. Other countries
I just came back from London. Yeah. Pretty much every fast food restaurant you go into
more mature
is halal.
Halal markets.
Yeah.
South Africa is probably amongst, if you consider like Western countries.
Yeah.
Right. Even if you put South Africa in there, they've had halal now for 4 or 5 generations. So they're way ahead of everybody.
Wow.
Right. And then after that is England, who's on 3-4 generations. And then in America, Toronto is way ahead of us. And then comes Chicago, and then comes New York.
Chicago
is a big part.
So these these more mature markets, especially places like South Africa and England, have already proved that it could get done.
Wow.
Right? So we'd be fools to not expect it to happen over here.
Hmm.
It will happen. It's just who's going to capitalize off of it.
Amazing.
Eventually, I think the capitalization will go to the big guys. There's no way of beating them, right? But those
even with the option like Halal.
I think so. But
Yeah.
but the option will be those big guys are not going to. They don't start from zero, right?
Is it because of capital?
No, it's just a bigger company. Let's call it a large distributor or a large food chain. They want to get into the halal space. They're not going to start from zero. They're not going to, do all that. They're just going to buy a company who already put down all the hard work.
Yeah.
And they're going to build off of there. They're going to throw their money in, their resources in, and they're going to, 100x it what we could do on our own.
Yeah.
So I think whoever gets into this industry, and food is just an example. The overall idea is all of the money that could be generated through Muslims, either it being food or the other various businesses that are there to capitalize off of Muslims.
Yeah.
Someone's gonna want to take an easy road and just buy someone else out and get a head start instead of starting from zero.
Yeah.
And if we position ourselves properly, we can be those people to benefit from that.
Right. Danish, I'm going to ask you a question. What do you think is the biggest misconception when it comes to being successful in the food space?
You could do, if you really want to do something, you could do it. There's nothing stopping you.
Is the big misconception that it's overcomplicated?
It's not complicated. It is everything is complicated. If you really want to do something, you could do it. I was in the healthcare industry. I was doing audits right before I came selling meat.
Very obvious transition.
Exactly. Yeah. I was like, okay, let's sell meat. No problem. Why not?
So what do you think, Other? What do you think is the biggest misconception about the halal food space?
I think there's a misconception of what it takes to be successful for young people. I think nowadays everybody wants to be an entrepreneur, which I am the biggest promoter of. I absolutely think if I meet a kid, and again, nothing wrong against the 9-to-5ers, but if I meet a kid in a job, I tell him to leave his job and pursue something, right? It's just the kids who are trying to pursue something, they don't understand how hard it is and how much work is required to do it. But if they're willing to put in the work, there are very few people that put in that work. There's a lot of people who want to be entrepreneurs. There's a lot of people who will dive into it, not even dive into it, kind of just tippy-toe into it. But if you put in the hard work, you separate yourself out. And there's not many people doing it. And it gets really, really easy after that. Not easy in terms of, you still have to put in the hard work, but easy in terms of competition. You can outwork anybody. And that's, you don't need money. You don't need, all of those things will make it easier if you have money or a network and all those things. But if you don't have anything and you're starting off from zero, that's not a barrier of getting in. All you got to do is outwork the other guy and all those other things will come. There are people who have money who need people who can work hard because they can't do it themselves. They don't have the time or the ability to. There are people who have networks who would open up the networks for you to capitalize off of if they find a hard worker. So that's that one standard that anyone can do. Mm-hmm. You don't need to be born into a rich family. You don't need to, have all of these things that people think you need. So I think that's a misconception in general for business for a lot of young people who want to get into it but are not willing to put in the hard work. They'll put it in the early stages. They start a new business, they're in it. But that's the easy part. The hard part is when it gets boring. And you still have to gotta do the boring stuff every single day. And most of business is boring, right? It's not fun. If I was to see what you do every day, this portion of it is not even 10% of it. It's all the boring stuff that happens on the back end. Yeah. That that you have to do in order to make it successful. And a lot of kids are not willing to do that.
What an amazing message. To give a final piece to close that out. If you had to do it all over again, how would you do it? For all those prospective entrepreneurs who want to break into the halal food space in New York or in whatever city they're listening into on their drive to work now, what would your advice be?
I can give personally how I would do it again. Business is dirty. I wish it could be not as dirty in terms of there's competition. And when another person, and something like the halal food space, you have another Muslim person who's running a business, feeding their family, but they're standing in the way of your growth, right? The only way for you to grow, not the only way, but one of the ways to grow is to cut him out, to beat him. And during that process, a lot of tactics have to be played. So you hurt somebody for your own success. Right? It's a big thing my father was against. He wasn't happy I got into this space first. And when he says, spent $300,000 on your education for you to become a butcher. So he's not too happy about it. But at the end of the day, he supports anything as long as it's hard work. So you have to go through people. Many times you have to do certain business practices that are not the best. You hurt people to get to where you need to be. And a lot of times you make wrong decisions. You have to get rid of certain employees. You got to hurt certain businesses in many ways. And if I was to do it again, I would try not to take some of those decisions to get there.
What would you say, Danish?
I think I wouldn't do anything different, because if I try to do it other way, there will be other problems, right? The problem's always going to be there. How to overcome over those problems, that will be my challenge. But I think there's some things I would try to do different, but not much.
So guys, that has been Muslim Made. We can't thank Halal and Holy Cow, the team behind it, Adil and Danish, from being a part of Muslim Made. Muslim Made cannot be what it is today without you guys, without what you have created. So we can't thank you enough. May Allah increase you guys in health, wealth, wisdom, and opportunity to grow. Thank you so much again for allowing us a deep dive into your story of grit, hustle, and heart. We hope that you had as much fun as we did.
Thank you for having us.
Jazakallah khairan, and thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Muslim Made. We wouldn't be able to do this without your support, so don't forget to share with a friend or family, and check out our merch to be a part of our community. Make sure you like and subscribe